There we are. Hello and happy Monday to all our 50 plus and fabulous women out there. My name is Maggie. I'm here today with Purse Strings. We're here, if anyone's new, we're here every Monday at 1:30 Central, bringing a professional to talk about one financial topic, kind of break it down. And so we're all about providing free financial education for women. But then when you need to go find a professional to work with, we have a list of top tier financial professionals who are willing and ready and able to help. We have financial advisors, attorneys, lenders, realtors, coaches, so whoever you're really looking for. And so today we have the pleasure of Neil Palache, and he is a money coach. So we're so excited. Thank you for coming on today, Neil.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So let's just jump right in. I'd love if you could give a little introduction about who you are and kind of what you do.
Well, I appreciate it. First of all, thanks for having me again. I really appreciate it. I enjoy chatting with people and coming on these shows. So thank you very much for that. I'll just give you a quick background. I was a financial advisor for 25 years, handled all sorts of investments and insurance and so forth. And about 13 years ago, decided I am going to become a divorce consultant. So as a money coach, I work specifically with folks in their pre, during, and post divorce stages. I work with women only and work with them on a fee basis. So I'm not involved in the investing and insurance piece of the equation, and give them any and all advice with regard to money. It could be about a car or a house. It could be about investing. It could be about their budgeting. It could be about online banking. You name it. We do the A to Z when it comes to anything to do with money.
Awesome. I love
That's
that.
me. Yeah.
And where are you tuning in today from?
I am in Thousand Oaks, California, and for those of you who may not know where that is, I'm about halfway between the city of Los Angeles and Santa Barbara up the 101.
Nice.
Real nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure you're having great weather.
Yeah.
But today we are here to talk about the three P's. And what is that? Post, pre, and blanket on the other one. Either way,
It is the prior, pending, and post divorce.
pending, prior, pending, and post divorce. Say that three
Right.
times fast.
Exactly.
And so, anyone tuning in, please feel free to ask questions at any point. Just pop them in the chat. We'll get them covered. But until then, Neil, I'll give you the floor.
Well, I appreciate it. Thanks very much. This is a difficult subject for people to talk about, to listen to. It's not a lot of fun. It's not something that we plan to do when we get married, but there are things that we must do in those three stages. People don't often spend a lot of time, I must say, on the the pre-divorce issues. I have clients who come to me in a pre-divorce setting, and I'm glad that they do, because often what I find is that folks are not really clear on what they're about to do. Not that they don't understand, obviously, that they're going to, file for divorce and go through that process, but what does it take? What do I need to know? Um, One of the things there's essentially, so we've got the three P's, and then what I like to do is, for simplicity purposes, is to break it down into three pieces within each of the three P's. So in the prior, even though there's a lot to discuss, the first thing is be prepared, right? So, do you have all of the information that you need? And you think, well, yeah, I mean, I know how much we all make. I kind of know where my assets are and where his assets are, or our assets. I think I got it. I think I know where it is. Okay, well, make sure that you have everything written, right? So not that you have to write it down, but do you have the actual statements? Excuse me. Do you have the actual statements? So I have prospective clients that come to me and they'll be like, okay, well, I think that there's this much in the 401k plan, and I think maybe there's a pension plan. I'm not sure about the life insurance situation, and so on and so forth. So all I'm saying is be sure, like know what there is, have the information ready up front. You're going to get asked for all this information anyway when you file and when you go to fill out all of the forms. You're going to need this information, but you want to do as much research on your situation pre-divorce so that you understand kind of what is this probably going to look like, so that you don't end up like a deer in the headlights with some major surprise and oh, okay, now what am I going to do? And meanwhile, you could be spending five, six, 700 an hour, maybe more, on professionals while you're trying to figure all this out. So there are just better ways and less expensive ways to kind of figure this out before you get in there. Second, be protected. Now, what does that mean? I don't mean, buy insurances and all that. I just mean protect yourself. This is a hard thing to do because you get into these situations and people will they'll say to me, look, I mean, he wouldn't do, I have a female clientele, right? So people say, well, he wouldn't do that, or he wouldn't do this. He's a good guy. I get that some of the time, at least. Um, and I'm not saying that any of that isn't true. I would never say that to somebody, well, that isn't true. What I do say is that this all can change somebody's attitude toward you, but more likely toward the situation. I'm a guy, if you haven't figured that out yet, and I know we get protective, especially when it comes to money. It's my money, it's my house, or I earned the money to make this happen, and so on and so forth. And what you have to remember is that unless there's property or asset that has been inherited by your husband or by you, that is independently owned, separate property, there is no my in a divorce, not in California anyway. And I know that most states are in the same situation where you have shared assets, right? So all of the assets are ours, right? Not his, not mine, except for those inherited, independent, separately owned assets. The assets are ours. So don't get into this, well, he's giving me this, or I'm giving him that, because the reality is that half of everything that there is already yours. So it's important to be protected. It's important to understand what you have. And then you go into that situation knowing that you have that mindset that says, hey, I don't have to be nasty about this, but I know what the rules are and I know what it should look like. And I'm not just going to lie down and not do anything about what should rightfully be on my side of the equation at the end of the day. The third thing is, that would be three. The third thing is be careful. Okay. Now, I don't mean, and I hope that, that there isn't anything happening to you that where there's emotional or physical abuse, but I'm not talking about that when I say be careful, although if you're in that situation, please be careful. But what I'm referring to is whether or not you've hired the right professionals. How many times people come to me and they've already started hiring people, particularly on the attorney side of the equation, and they're on their second or third attorney. It often hasn't, it's nothing really to do with the attorney in that the attorney isn't necessarily a bad person. I mean, there are good and bad people in all occupations, but it could just be a mismatch. So when you get into that picking your professionals, whether it's an attorney, an accountant, financial advisor, insurance agent, realtor, mortgage broker, mental health professional, when you're working with these people, they got to be the right people. They got to be the right people for you. So when you get a referral, for instance, from somebody else, I'm not suggesting for you not to take that referral. Yeah, take that referral, but interview them. You're interviewing that person for the job of fill in the blank. They're your attorney, your accountant, and so on and so forth. And that needs to be taken very seriously. One of the things that's very important, of course, is that your professionals, plural, can work together, right? If you have an attorney that can't work with an accountant, that can't work with a realtor, that can't work with a mortgage broker, that's not going to work very well. So you need to have people that are able to work on a team. That doesn't mean to say that you're using collaborative law, for instance, which is one of the methods that you could be using. Those teams are usually pretty solid. But in a situation where, let's say, you've got a mediator and now you also need to have these other professionals around you, or if you're litigating and you need to have these other professionals around you, be careful about who you're hiring. Do your homework. It takes a little time and effort, but you're going to be spending a lot of money on these folks, and they need to be the folks that fit you the best. And you need, in a sense, to ignore to a degree whether or not somebody fit a friend, a sister, a brother, a mother, a father. That doesn't mean they'll necessarily fit for you. So make sure that you do your homework. So that's the prior.
I just wanted to
During.
Can I
Hmm?
just jump in? And I just wanted to
Yeah,
highlight a couple points that you made there, which I
yeah,
loved, is that when you're doing this process, it's more than one professional. You do need all these moving pieces, and it's so important to get them to talk. And you can, introduce them and kind of say, like, you're allowed to share this information and have this conversation. And then both of you come back to me and just give me the solution. You don't have to be the middleman. You can really use your professionals. But I like how you also said, yeah, interview them, because just because they're right fit for somebody does not mean they're the right fit for you. It's just like a doctor, or, a different teacher. Somebody clicks, some don't, and that's neither right or wrong. But find the best ones for you, because it is a hard situation. Um,
agreed.
I just wanted to highlight those points again because I thought they're fantastic, and I'll let you keep going.
Yeah, great. Thank you for doing that. So now we get into the during. I will tell you that I don't spend a huge amount of time in the during. It's the most difficult part of the process, particularly emotionally. You're working with your mediator, with your lawyer. You're going to court hearings possibly. You're sitting in a room with your attorney, with your husband's attorney. It can be very difficult, and so in a collaborative setting, there might be multiple people in a room. I don't go in those rooms very much because my focus is more on the prior and the post. But in the during, really, again, there are three things that you want to focus on. Number one, listen, right? Are you practicing active listening? This is hard. And by the way, it's not hard just in a divorce setting. Active listening is difficult. Often we're sitting there and we're having a conversation with somebody in many different settings. And the thing that we're thinking about is, what are we going to say in response to what is being said to me? We're not really listening to what is being said. In that setting in particular, that being the setting of divorce, you want to be like an incredible listener more than anything else, because there's a lot being said. Now, you want to be writing notes. Don't rely on the other person in the room. Yes, your attorney's very good at what he or she does, but you're the client. You're the one getting divorced. You're the one that has to deal with whatever the outcome is. And so you need to be actively listening to what's going on so that you can deal with the second part of the during, which is questions. Okay, are you asking questions? Well, sometimes you want to ask questions because you don't know, or you don't know what you don't know, as they say. Sometimes you want to ask questions because you heard something that was said, and you have that question. Well, maybe you can't ask that question immediately. You're going to write that question down and then make sure that you ask that question. The thing about the questions is, don't ever, 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 ever feel like what you're about to ask is just silly. Well, I'm not going to ask that question. That's just silly. That's obvious. Everybody knows the answer to that question. No, that's the question you probably do want to ask. There's no such thing as silly questions. And that question might even be a question that your soon-to-be ex-husband also wants to ask and should know about. So it's a great question to ask. Now, sometimes you're going to ask the question and you're going to get that response like, you know, like, what do you mean? Why are you asking that? We just said that. I don't care. You shouldn't care. Ask the question that you need to ask. You didn't hear it. You don't understand it. And you want clarification on what was just said or how something may work. Ask questions. Very, very, very important. And the third piece of the doing is being responsive. Respond. Are you completing your assigned tasks? Okay, you're going to get asked to fill out the FL this and the FL that. And those are you can't move forward without that stuff. That's the stuff that goes to the court. You can't take the next step. If you get asked via email or text a question by your attorney, by your financial advisor, by one of your other professionals, think about it, answer the question. Don't let it sit, because it'll come back later on and, oh boy, we didn't do that, and now you've extended the period of time during which you have to go through this and you can't finalize the divorce, and it becomes an issue. Now, the thing that you may not want to respond to quickly, by the way, although it says, are you completing your assigned task, is you get a text or an email from your soon-to-be ex, and it's quite upsetting, and you want to respond. And I'm saying don't. Hard to do. Any argumentative, confrontational type of issue is difficult not to respond to immediately. But you have to be careful about what you say, about what you do. Okay. It's one of those situations where if you get into a squabble about things, that words and actions can be held against you, and you want to avoid that at all costs. So if you receive something, just try to take a breath. Very hard to do. I'm not saying that I necessarily do a great job of it myself, but it's a very difficult thing to do. Practice it and see what you can do about just waiting 30 minutes or even waiting a day to respond to those things that are just kind of designed to dig at you and really aren't the types of things that you have to respond to quickly. Okay, so again, difficult to do, but if you can, do it. On the other hand, respond to those things that your attorney's saying. Hey, we need to get this done. We need to get this done, and do your best not to procrastinate on that, because that can be very difficult. So last but not least, the post. Okay, the post divorce. So you've got the prior, we've gone over that. We've got the pending, the during the divorce, we've gone over that. And now we're going to deal a little bit with the post divorce. Now, let's face it, the post divorce is the longest period. the pre-divorce, well, of course that could be long, but maybe you thought about doing this a year before you actually did something. You got to go when you go through a divorce, it's at least 6 months, but it could be a year, 2 years, hopefully not longer than that. Then the post-divorce is the rest of your life. So now if you're 50 years old, you're 55 years old, please God, you should live 40 more years, right? Or more, hopefully. So this is the longest part, the post-divorce. And the first thing that you've got to do, there's way more than three things, and I've just put down three things. Be sensible. I know, hard to do. Are you living within your means? Now, this is just a financial question. It's no simpler than are you spending more money than you're bringing in? It's just that. And it's difficult to do. And you may want to live the lifestyle that you had lived during your 5, 10, 20-year marriage. And you can't do that yet. Okay, but just because you can't do it yet doesn't mean that you can't do it at all, ever. But in order to be able to get there, if you're not already there, you have to be able to kind of pull in the reins. You have to do that now to be able to have what you want to have later. And, if you're 50, I know I'm talking to a 50 plus crowd. Um, it's, you're barely middle aged. Like there's loads of stuff. The most productive years of your life, according to studies, are 50 to 70. And 70 to 80 is becoming one of the most productive periods in one's life. So it's highly productive time. You've made all the mistakes. You know what to do and what not to do. And now you've got all this knowledge, wisdom, experience that you can apply to the next 30 or 40 years. And it can be incredible. So are you living within your means? Secondly, create a plan. What do you want for your future? What do you want it to look like? It can pretty much be anything you want it to be. It really can. I truly believe that. It may take time. You may have to go back to school. You may need to make an investment in yourself. You may need to take a certain amount of risk, but it really can be whatever you want it to be. And I sit with clients, and sometimes they'll say to me, well, when I went through college, and when I was in my mid to late 20s and into my I was really moving in this direction from a career perspective. Then we got married, we had kids, and that all was set aside. But I've always wanted to do that. And you're just not too old to do that. You're not. Now, you may not want to, and that's a whole nother issue. But if there are things that you want to do, now's the time to do it, and you really have that opportunity. So what's the plan? Have you created a plan? Um, think about it. Think about how you might want your future to look. If you were to look 5 years out and say, what does that look like if I was to put myself there? And I'm looking back and I'm thinking, wow, that was an amazing 5 years. What did you do? How did you do that? Like pretend, play act a little bit, and then write a plan on that basis. That exercise, by the way, really, really works well. And there's some terrific people out there, some terrific coaches that can help you formulate that plan and create a different mindset that might help you move in that direction. And then the third and most important part of the post divorce is take action. Now, that quite frankly, that's the most important part of life, probably. Take action, taking action. We all come up with these great ideas. We've done it. We've said, we've come up with this great idea, and then we walk into Bed Bath and Beyond, and there it is. I came up with that idea 3 years ago. Well, great. I'm glad that you did, but somebody else did too, and they took action. And so they got the Shark Tank deal, and they're in bed and bath with Laurie Grenier, and they're making millions. So now there are a bunch of people that did other things that failed, and that's part of taking risk, right? But if you don't take the action, you're never going to get what you want. You've got to take a little bit of risk. It should be the type of risk that is not going to flatten you if you fail. But yeah, it's going to cost you a little something. If not financially, mentally, hopefully not physically. And you're going to have to, you're going to get knocked down, and hopefully you get back up. You got to get back up, right? But you got to take that action. So that's number 3 in the post. You've been sensible. You're living within your means. You've got this plan. You've created this plan. It looks good. It's exciting. You're excited about it. Now you've got to take action. You've got to put that plan into place so that in 3 years and 5 years and 10 years, you're in the position that you want to be. And by the way, if you're 50, how old are you going to be in 10 years? 60. How old are you going to be in 10 years if you don't implement the plan? 60. How old are you going to be in 10 years if you do implement the plan? 60. Like the 10 years is going to go by anyway. So why not implement a plan that makes sense for you, that excites you, that provides passion for you, that really motivates you and gets you out of bed every morning? So that's what the take action part is all about. There are a ton of little pieces. Every one of these has an A and a B and a C and a D. There's way more to it. Obviously, I've given you my summary of what this all looks like in 30 minutes. And I'm here to take some questions. I appreciate the time that you've spent with me today. Thank you so much for having me on. And I wish you all the best of luck. And if I can be of any assistance to you in any way, please feel free to reach out to me, and I will be happy to have a chat.
I was packed with great information, absolutely packed. And I love your example at the end, about that taking action of that Best Buy or the Bed Bath & Beyond experience. We've all had that. I thought of that before. But it's, we have to live our best lives, whatever that looks like for us. And so we do have to look, what do we want to say that we've accomplished and all these wonderful items. So yeah, it's not too late to do whatever you want to do, whatever that is that makes you happy.
Exactly.
And so, Neil, if someone were to call you, what are kind of the services that you would help them with, with your specialties?
Yeah, look, the specialty that I have is that I work with divorcing or divorced women. Like that. Those are my people right there.
So pre and post.
Yeah, pre and post. I mean, I'll do the in between, but really there are other people that are better at it. I mean, you've got CDFAs, for instance, certified divorce financial analysts, and those folks, the between stuff, man, I mean, they got it down. Right. They got the training, they got the certification, they got the software. So yeah, the pre and post is my focus. In terms of what I do, I'm a jack of all trades. Like if you want to go to the dealership and buy a car, I'll help you do that. You want to buy a house, you want to sit down and do a budget, you're not sure how to do online banking, but you want the coach with you. Like you can get all that information from YouTube. I mean, let's face it. Yeah. But if you want a coach with you, that is providing concierge services, like I'm literally with you, then we'll do it together. And I've been involved in job negotiations. I've been involved in employment searches, anything to do with money, credit, you name it. I mean, we'll get into it. And then if we need to hire, a credit expert, we'll go do that. But sometimes we can solve simple problems without doing that.
That's wonderful. I mean, I think about, like buying a car, trying to get a new job. Sometimes you're like, well, what is a good interest rate? What is a good salary? And what do I need to
Yeah.
fit in my budget or to help me, keep my lifestyle. So I could see how coaching in those areas are so helpful, especially if you're starting out on your own again. That's a big leap. But I thank you, Neil, for coming on today. This was packed with wonderful information. What's the best way for people to reach out to you?
Well, I'm easy to find. I mean, obviously, if you Google me, you'll find me, but directly call me or text me 818-606-7327. Or if you prefer email, Neil at thewealthcreatorcompany.com. Spell it all out in full, Neil at thewealthcreatorcompany.com. I return all my own phone calls, my texts, and my emails. I'm very available, and you'll no more than 24 hours, if not same day, you'll get a response from me.
Awesome. That's always wonderful to hear back. It's amazing. He's
Yeah.
also one of our Purse Strings approved professionals. So you could check him out on our site, pursestrings.co. And we will be here again next week with another Money Monday. So thank you and have a wonderful week. Thank you, Neil.
Thanks for having me, Maggie.
Bye.